I didn't want anybody else's video to influence me, so I've been sort of staying away from this since Monday, just to sort of give myself a chance to just watch it fresh and be able to respond as the video rolls. So without further ado, we're going to go over the mundane Matt, talking about the 19-year-old girl with the 14-year-old boy. That's the topic of today's video, kids. Let's roll it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mundane Matt, here with a story for you that I don't have an opinion on strongly one way or another. I mean, I do and I don't, because part of me kind of feels for the person at the heart of the story a little bit, but at the same time, there were crimes committed, and that is something worth discussing. So
let me help you clarify this morally, Matt. If you are unsure of whether or not you should cover something because you don't have a strong opinion one way or another, then perhaps the correct decision would be not to cover it. I know that's difficult. I know you're trying to make content every single day. It's difficult to find subjects for content every single day. But guess what? Some stories you can just let go.
In Hollywood, Alabama, you have a 19-year-old girl by the name of Mackenzie Lee Guffey, and she's currently charged with a host of offenses, including second-degree rape, enticing a child for immoral purposes, and possession and dissemination of child pornography. She's currently facing 20 years in jail and a $30,000 fine if convicted. She's also 5 to 6 weeks pregnant with this particular boy's child. Now, if you've started going, fucking lock her up, hold on.
Gee, I'm torn because I really want to judge this girl. I really do, but I guess I will hold on until you have made your case. Make it good, Matt. You better make it good.
So, yes, this girl is 19. This boy is 14. The legal age of consent in Alabama is 16. Still illegal. But they met back in December. They started bumping uglies, right? She even stayed with him for a couple weeks. Last December, where they then made the homemade porno, and they engaged in sexual acts multiple times, and she got pregnant. Now, the parents of the 14-year-old let her stay there, so one could assume that the parents were involved to the point of knowing that, like, she was probably his girlfriend, that she was probably someone of whom there was a relationship. But according to her grandmother, she saw them together recently, and they weren't touchy-feely. She didn't know what their relationship was. So again, it's one of those situations of maybe they were just friends with benefits, at least according to him, but she wanted more.
Okay, so they met back in December when she was slightly younger, say almost 4 months younger, but she was still over the age of majority in Alabama, and he was still under the age of majority. He didn't grow younger in the 3 to 4 months since December that have occurred since then. And also the fact that his parents allowed her to stay over doesn't mean dick when they're making a porno together under their roof and without their knowledge. I would imagine without their knowledge. But that's still illegal, Matt. That's still illegal.
Now, Mackenzie herself has had a very rough childhood. Her parents divorced when she was 10. She moved from Fleabag motels to rundown mobile homes. Her parents abused drugs, and she was basically left to raise her younger siblings by herself until they went to go live with their grandparents. And when they went to go live with their grandparents, she was lice bitten and flea bitten and lice or whatever the fuck it was. She had a very rough childhood, and so she has always kind of not had that normality. All right, and so she graduated high school last year, got a job at a rug plant. Her grandfather died. That destroyed her mentally. She got hurt on the job. That destroyed her further. And according to her grandmother, she was just looking for someone to hold on to. She happened to meet this 14-year-old boy through a mutual friend, and it progressed.
Ooh, story time. Let me tell you about someone who also had a rough childhood. In 1934, he was born to a 16-year-old girl who was both an alcoholic and a prostitute. She later married man, but the marriage ended quickly and the boy was placed in a boys' school. Although the boy ran back to his mother, she didn't want anything to do with him. He was soon living on the streets and getting by through petty crime. By 1951, he began spending time in prison, and early on, before he discovered the benefits of being a model prisoner, he was considered dangerous. He would eventually spend half of the first 32 years of his life behind bars. That young man's name, Charlie Manson. See, we can play this game all day with the rough childhood shit. You're not really winning me over with that, dude.
Now, I'm not excusing what she did. I'm not excusing anything. But part of me, again, feels extreme sympathy because of the horrible upbringing that she had. And that's kind of where I'm torn on this. Because these are serious charges. As I said, she faces 20 years in jail if convicted. And I think probably the most of it has to do with the homemade porno. Because not only did she record it on her phone, she sent it to the kid.
I really don't see why you're having a tough time with this. She really, under no circumstances should she have been even in the same room alone with this child. And you're just excusing it. Oh, she had a rough child. You say you're not excusing it, but you're kind of excusing it. You're kind of excusing it. You're kind of being like, but what about her childhood? Dude, no. We're going to get to why in just a minute here, but no.
She sent it to the 14-year-old. Okay, it was on his phone and it showed him in a state of undress. They didn't go into detail of what's on it, but that's essentially what it was. And because he's under the age, it's considered like child pornography, which is a very, very, very serious crime and not one that should ever be looked at lightly. And so you've got this situation where you've got a girl who maybe isn't all the way there in terms of a maturity level, engaging in a relationship with a guy 5 years her junior in a state where they're halfway between the legal consent age. She gets pregnant. She goes on Facebook. She starts boasting about it, right? And gets caught because she goes to seek Medicaid. And when talking to a social worker, she says that the father was 14 and the social worker was legally bound to turn that in.
Yeah, she's legally bound to do that because that's her job. To make sure that situations where someone is taking advantage of someone else, yes, she took advantage of that boy. She took advantage of that boy, and that boy's life is ruined before it's even started. He can't even get a fucking job, you simpering moron.
So she turned it over to the cops. The cops arrested her. The cops interviewed her. And then the police chief, who has a 13-year-old son himself, says she feels absolutely no remorse and was bragging about it. But again, that ties into her emotional and mental mindset. Like, do we know everything about her right now? Because I don't look at this from her perspective as being a malicious act. I don't look at this from her perspective as a predatory act. I look at this as a person who has had a very rough life and found someone to hold on to, and maybe he wasn't feeling the same way. Again, I have no idea. I'm speculating entirely on that.
Yeah, I'll say. You're speculating all over the place, Matthew. Why? Why is this such a tough issue for you? I don't get it. I don't get why this is so difficult for you. It's not difficult in the slightest, I promise.
But that's where they are. It's a tough one. It's one of the reasons why I cannot formulate a hard stance on this. I'm not of the lock her up, but I'm also of the make her pay because she did break the law. You can't excuse the homemade porno. But the question is, where do you guys stand on this? Do you think this person deserves leniency at all because of her upbringing? Do you think she had the full mental capacity to know what she was doing or to know that it was illegal? Do you think that she should be held to the highest, the fullest extent of the law and spend the 20 years in prison? I mean, these are situations where this isn't like a teacher in a high school preying on a younger student. This isn't like the 50-year-old teacher, I believe in, like, I know there's a teacher recently that just kidnapped a 15-year-old student and they're gone somewhere right now. Like, that's not that situation. This to me feels like a young girl fell in love. Maybe she's not 19 in age mentally, I don't think, because of her upbringing. And she's fell in love with a 14-year-old. She got pregnant. It's what she wanted. She wanted a family of her own. And I don't view it as being this utterly horrible, malicious act, but it is an illegal one.
My question to you is, if she's not all there mentally, is it better or worse that she wanted to start a family of her own with a 14-year-old boy? Consider that question, Matt.
And I'm just confused because I don't know what to think on this. When I read this story last night, I'm like, I'll sit on it for a day and I'll formulate my thoughts. And I read other stories about it, and I feel like the police are trying to like go, oh, she's just a rapist. She's just a rapist. She shows no remorse. But if she's in love with the kid, like legitimately, truly in love with the kid, she wouldn't show remorse.
Seriously, not that difficult, Matt. Okay, all right. If you're having trouble with it, here's what you do. You swap the genders of the people involved. Okay, so now that we've swapped the genders, we have a 19-year-old man who is sleeping with a 14-year-old girl and got her pregnant. She went and she had him stay over for a couple of weeks over Christmas, and they had sex and they made a homemade porno, but he had a really messed up childhood. This is not... I still want to convict that guy. If it's a guy, I want to convict him. If it's a girl, I want to convict her. It's still wrong, Matt.
I don't know. That's what I would love your guys' feedback on this one. Like, these are the tough stories that we come across doing this sort of thing that it's hard to have a streamlined approach to, or at least a solid thought. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure they're going to be interesting to read nonetheless, but I do definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this one, because as much as I want her to be accountable for her crimes, I also do feel pity and sympathy based on her situation. And it's so conflicting. I would not be a good person on this jury, is what I'll say about that one. Because I'd have questions I'd want to know the answer to. But that's also just where I stand from a compassion level.
Yeah, I'm going to stop you right there because this is already almost 15 minutes long, and I want to go ahead and you're done. All the rest of this is just you trying to get people to comment on your video and thumb it up and maybe subscribe, which they should definitely do to this video here that they're watching right now. Please thumb it up, subscribe, and make a comment. Let me know what you think, if you agree with him or if you agree with me. Either way, let us know. Let me know, let him know. Links are in the description to the original video, and also there's a couple of articles on the same subject in the description, as well as other social media and other links. All right, kids, have a good evening. Thanks for watching.